everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you. And we're just going to give some quick thoughts on the recent announcement that filmmaker DENIS VILLENEUVE has been chosen to direct the next James Bond movie. Now the news dropped in the late hours of Wednesday the 25th of June 2025, confirmed by many news outlets, and this is following the recent acquisition of the James Bond franchise by Amazon Studios, who took it over from the previous owners or stewards, Barbara Broccoli. Reportedly, many other directors have been considered, from the likes of Edgar Wright, Edward Berger and Paul King, but Denis got the nod. Now in terms of James Bond, the last franchise entry, as we all know, was No Time to Die, released back in 2021, in very much a post-pandemic climate, and it still went on to gross an impressive $774.2 million worldwide, given that point in time within movies. And of course, this was the swan song entry for Daniel Craig. Now there's been so much debate post that release in terms of the franchise, where it's heading, and following the dispute in terms of the ownership of the franchise. Many questions have been raised about when we will exactly see the next Bond film, and more importantly, who will be the new lead actor to take on the character. Now in recent times, Bond films tend to generally be released every 2 to 3 years, but currently, as we are standing now, around 4 years post No Time to Die, this will be one of the longest breaks in between movies that have been released. It's highly likely that we will see the same period as what we saw the last longest break, and that was between 1989's License to Kill and 1996 GoldenEye. So what do we then make of all of this news? Well, to be honest, I'm mixed and perhaps slightly concerned. Now on the positive side, Denis Villeneuve has emerged to become a mainstream prestige director of some distinction, having steadily built a considerable filmography from the likes of Blade Runner 2049, Arrival and Prisoners, and of course the recent Dune movies, where he did achieve commercial success. And yes, the majority of his films have gained strong critical reception, so at least we do have here a very serious, substantial filmmaker. And we can also be pretty sure that the cinematography will be on point. Nearly all of Villeneuve's films have a very clean, crisp aesthetic to them, especially when we look at the Dune films and also Blade Runner. So he'll absolutely be able to project a very large scope and epic sweep to the movie, and that's exactly what you would want from a Bond film. So Denis will definitely bring some elements and qualities of value, no doubt about it. But my main concerns come with the other aspects of his filmmaking. And for all of his visual flair, he does have issues, particularly in terms of pacing and also length. Nearly all of his films tend to be around 20 to 25 minutes too long. Even his best work, which for me is still 2013's Prisoners, for all of the emotional intensity and weight that was brought with that film, there were still large passages that the story dragged, and they really needed to be edited down, and that film itself should have only been around 100 minutes long, and it ended up being just over 2.5 hours long. And I think Denis tends to get lost in the overall aesthetic of the world that he is building, and he can lose sight of storytelling as a result. And the overall viewing experience can become less involving and a bit plodding and perhaps a bit boring, especially when I'm looking at the likes of Blade Runner 2049, and to a lesser extent the Dune films, which weren't always compelling and again did tend to drag as the story progressed. And Villeneuve is really that uber serious director, very similar to the likes of what we've seen recently in terms of Sam Mendes, Christopher McQuarrie, and most notably of all, Christopher Nolan, who really set the blueprint of that more modern, serious, contemporary epic blockbuster, which is full of large, wide-spanning shots of city landscapes, booming Hans Zimmer musical score, and heightened exposition and dialogue, very concept driven, and they always tend to be around 2.5 to 3 hours long. Now of course, given the right story and character, all of those merits can result in some excellent and superb films, and all of those directors mentioned have produced some very stellar work within their careers. But it's really that uber seriousness where my further concern lies. Now for all of their massive box office success, the Daniel Craig era of films, where we had that more brooding deconstruction of James Bond, really lacked the charm, the swagger and the charisma of what we normally associate with the classic interpretation of the character. The movies themselves would be lacking that fun and escapism, and they tended to be overlong and, dare I say, a bit boring in places. For me personally, I wasn't a massive fan of Skyfall, and I think most people would agree that Quantum of Solace tends to be very unwatchable for the most part. And if Villeneuve is given absolutely free reign to do what he likes with this movie, which I suspect that he will, I don't believe main executives at Amazon are as passionate about the franchise as what Barbara Broccoli was. When they did acquire the rights to the movies, many concerns were highlighted that we were going to try and really exploit James Bond into much more of a Marvel type of franchise, where we would see potential spin-offs of many supporting characters and origin stories that were completely unnecessary. We've also seen with the likes of DC, again, a lack of passion and insight and care into the characters, where they've just tended to let movie directors basically do what they want at the expense of the iconic characters. So no doubt about it, I believe that they will let Denis do what he likes, but again, that comes at potentially the expense of the character. Will we yet again have a much more flawed, vulnerable, much more introspective secret spy? And I'm not sure that that would be fun to watch. I'm not sure if Villeneuve is capable of infusing enough of those classic Bond elements to balance off against a more serious tone. Will we get enough of the energy, the exotic locations, the large-scale action, the charismatic villains, all of the womanizing and sexy females and classic one-liners that you absolutely need and are very much prerequisites in any type of James Bond adventure? As I mentioned, the Daniel Craig films almost seemed ashamed of those classic Bond elements, striving more for relevance and more realism. And again, there were parts of this that were very successful, but if we really look at the Daniel Craig films, probably minus Casino Royale, they don't really have the same rewatchability as the earlier classic films, whether it would be in the Sean Connery or Roger Moore era. And even the weaker installments in the previous portrayals still had a charm and a rewatchability about them that I think was missing from the Daniel Craig movies. And I would dare say the same can be applied for nearly all of Denis Villeneuve's movies. If you really ask about it, how many of these films within his career would you really go back and rewatch multiple times? I'm not so sure that you would find many reaching that level. But at the same time, we do have to wait and see. It's very early. Again, this announcement has just been made. And we have to be clear that this project, whenever it happens, is a million miles away. Villeneuve will be busy putting together Dune Messiah. That in itself is a massive event film, which we suppose would be the concluding part of the recent Dune trilogy. So that will keep him occupied for at least a year and a half to 2 years in terms of making a movie itself and then all of the post-production work and then going out with their massive promotional tour. That's what I would expect to see. So if we really think about it, any potential Bond film won't be seen for at least another 3 to 4 years. So there's not really a lot that we can speculate in terms of what this Bond movie will be, aside from looking at the previous work of the director and then speculating that he will be given free rein to do what he wants and then making some sort of logical assumption. Now, of course, the next critical decision, as what we've all been waiting for, is who he will cast in the lead role for this film. Will he go for a middle-aged actor to tie into the character who we normally assume is around in his early mid-30s, or will he go for a younger version, and what many fans are fearing, that in the attempts to be, again, much more relevant in today's culture, that will we get a younger, far less experienced and much more of a soy boy or potential simp persona in order to be far less offensive and much more in keeping with the beta male type of culture that we are seeing, especially in social media today. I pray to God that we don't get anywhere near that, and hopefully Villeneuve will have enough sensibility and acknowledgement of the character that he can stay true to the nature of what James Bond would be in terms of the more classic interpretation. But again, this is all speculation, and we will wait and see what happens when we get further announcements later on down the line. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings, and maybe perhaps concerns at the fact that Denis Villeneuve has been selected to direct the next James Bond movie. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other topics in the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know in the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and I will see you very, very soon.